adventure goers. So I've been getting a lot of questions about gear for Havasupai and kind of what to expect, and this is probably just a brief rundown overview of what we learned last year and kind of some give and takes on that. I was going to go through a few items I have here, getting ready to load my stuff out as well, and just give you some ideas on what to think about as you shop at REI or Academy or wherever you choose, or what gear you may or may not have. But last year we did learn a few lessons. So when we arrive at the trailhead, we're going to try to do it at 3:30 or 4 a.m. As you descend down in the Grand Canyon, you'll be hiking in the dark under headlamp. So again, that's one of the items in this list. As you head down, it's dark, it's rocky, it's into the Grand Canyon. We found that about 8 miles to the front of the town, but then there's another mile into town before you actually get to where you get your permits. There is a store there that has Gatorades and everything else. Now mind you, they are priced as they are in the Grand Canyon. There's a little cafe that does breakfast burritos and fry bread, stuff like that. Then it's another mile into the actual beginning of the campgrounds. From there, there's a stretch of campgrounds where usually the sites have trees, so you can hammock camp, you can tent camp. The river does run through them in between the Navajo Falls and the first big Havasupai Falls. We'll try to find a spot in there. We saw a couple of good ones last year. It's first come, first serve, so there's always that. I plan on hammock camping. I don't like the weight of a tent, and I don't need it down there. Once we get in there, then from there, there'll be day hikes out from there, things of that nature. So a lot of people asked about the bathroom situation. The bathrooms are these 2-story brown buildings where you walk upstairs, you sit down, it's a normal toilet, and there's wood chips below you. So yes, there are a few flies, yes, there is some smell, but it's a very canyon-friendly bathroom, I guess, to say the least. Now they're sporadically placed, so you may have to walk from camp just a little bit to get to them, but it's not really that bad. As far as bathing and stuff like that, the river runs right through there. They do ask for neutral camp soaps, things like that, that'll be easy on the environment, but whatever you shower does go downstream and eventually dump into the Colorado River. So keep that in mind. Now, on the way in, you're carrying a pack. Your creature comforts and things that you want during the camp, that's going to depend on how much you want to carry. Last year, we had people use the mules. So you set your bags up at the trailhead, they pick them up, and eventually they get dropped off at the camp host at the beginning of the campground, which means if you're down there during the day and the bags haven't arrived till 2-3 p.m., you don't have anything to set up camp until they arrive on the hike in. The mule trains, I believe it was $60 or $65 per pack each way last time. I could be mistaken, but that is something that is available, but you are without your gear, so keep that in mind. A lot of people chose to pack in since it was all downhill to the campsite and then set up a mule train for the way out. On the day we leave, your packs have to be ready to go at, I believe, 7 a.m. back at that camp host spot, where we arrived at the trailhead about 1 p.m. that afternoon and the packs had just been dropped off. So that gives you that stretch to hike out and kind of take your time. Depending on what day of the week it is and how they do it, there is a helicopter service that will take you and your pack either in or out, but the times on those are very specific and they only run certain days of the week now. So I packed in and packed out last year. My pack was heavier than I expected, especially on the way out. I did run out of water on the way out. It was heavy on the way out, and the elevation gain on the way out, mind you, you're going from the campsite down here all the way up 2,700 feet to the rim of the Grand Canyon where the trailhead is. And it's uphill the whole way through a canyon. We leave earlier, but by 10 a.m. it's getting warm. And you know, I mean, temperature is one of those things we got to look at down there. It is the high desert, so temperature swings are going to be kind of crazy. During the day, we were in t-shirt and shorts. The water was extremely cool, so as you got out of that, some people put their jackets on. But in the sunlight itself, it was hot and delightful. So, I mean, if you need sunblock, you better take it. little camp towel, things like that, those microfiber towels. There's all sorts of gear options. There's several videos. I'll attach a couple links to some people other than myself that's done this. But just a quick overview of gear. Some people asked about camp chairs. REI makes these little flex-like chairs. If you want to carry the weight, you can have a chair at camp. Last year, between the hammocks, between the picnic tables that are around the campsites, rocks, trees that have been tumped over, I didn't take a chair. I was fine. I haven't decided if I'm going to this year or not, but these little camp chairs like this, again, it's your weight to pack in. A pillow. Sea to Summit makes these little Aries pillows that expand out and inflate. They're wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. I run a tarp over my hammock. It's an A-frame tarp, and the hammock lies in between, so if it rains or anything like that, privacy, that's what I use. Sleeping pad. People from Flex Light to everything else. This is the Climate Static V. This thing here is about 35 bucks on Amazon. This is the not insulated one. You can blow it up. You sleep really well on it. It's got great angled ribs. It's a really great pad. I've used it for a lot of trips. I know several other people that have used it and loved it. I currently use a Mountain House. It's a 32 degree bag, 3-season bag. It is a mummy bag and it'll compress down, but I keep it stored so the down doesn't get compressed. Between this, a beanie, maybe a base layer of clothes to wear, I didn't have an issue last year. Like I said, we went just a little bit later than we're going this year, so I don't expect it to even be as cool at night. With proper layering, it's really not an issue. So that's what I use as far as sleeping bag. Some people believe that they may need a fleece liner for their bag. I had this for last year's trip. Never used it because it was that warm. We can look at temperatures as they get closer, but again, between proper layering, a good sleeping bag, and a good insulated pad or a pad between you and the ground, it's not terrible. It's really not. Back to the hike in. Hiking boots. A lot of people for the hike in, it is a dirt canyon trail. There's soft sand, there's hard rock, there's a little bit of gravel. It's a long hike in, so boots are awesome. Once you're in the canyon, I know people have their opinions on chacos and merrills and everything else. When we do our day hikes or we hike down to the confluence or we go to Beaver Falls, it's back and forth across the river. So if you take these, and other than that, and you have water shoes just for crossing the river, you are stopping and starting no less than 30 times to put them on, take them off, put them on, take them off. Last year, a lot of us had chacos or these style Tevas, things like that. We were able to hike the 6 miles down and everything else, no problems, no questions. So these are your options. I usually hike in boots and then switch over to chacos for the remainder of the trip. A lot of people, if these are your first time with chacos and you haven't broke them in, you need to bring medical tape, duct tape, or something like that because they will give you blisters when you're hiking in sand, water, and multiple miles with an unbroken in sandal. Even if you have broke them in, make sure to remember to bring tape for blisters, moleskin, things like that, because you're on a hiking trip, your feet are probably going to get a few blisters. Trekking poles. Some people swear by them, some people hate them. They're great. When you're hiking through a canyon, stuff like that, balance, when you're hiking uphill, leaning on them, they're worth their weight in gold. These are just out of REI's standard co-op packages, aluminum locks. I'm trying to see if they have the weight listed on them. It's been rubbed off since then. But again, I'm not an ultralight backpacker. I do like some of the comforts, so this year I'm going to try to tone down the bag. Your biggest weights are going to be water and food because, well, once you're down in there, if you hike up to the store or something like that, it's 1.5 miles one way. You know, and it is cash only, so make sure we hit the ATM. I'll remind people in the carpool and stuff like that, but it is cash only. So there's that. Speaking of water, water filter. Didn't use it last year, extra weight, didn't need it. There is a natural spring there. People complain about testing this, testing that. Well, we all drank it. Everybody was fine. One thing we did notice was that at camp, keeping a supply of water meant we had to have portable totes. Some people had the collapsible bags, some people had the MSR bags. I went to Boston Market, and they have these 1 gallon lemonade or iced tea bags that they gave me these free. But they're 1 gallon bags. They fold up, they're paper thin. I'll take 2 of these little guys, have water at the camp. It's that simple. You don't have to have all this fancy gadgets and everything you see on TV and Bear Grylls it. I just got these from Boston Market, little bitty collapsible bag. They're wonderful. Speaking of camp, jet boils. I usually carry a jet boil because a lot of my food is just rehydrated food. You couple of boiling water, set it for 10 minutes, and there's that. This year I'm going to try the GSI Soloist. It's a little camp cup, and it's got a little stove in here and a fuel cell and things like that. I'm going to give it a try. I've been looking for a lighter solution because this does add some weight. So we're going to give this a try this year. Last year people had success with all ranges of fuel, stoves, things like that. Not to mention we're going in a group. If something breaks or you don't have it, I'm pretty sure inside the group it'll all work out. Just ask Chelsea. She'll be there with us. She's one of my friends. Last year we all tested that theory. It happens. Coffee. This is one of the GSI pour over microfilm pouches. It sits on the rim of the coffee cup. You put your coffee in it, pour the hot water over it, you have actually fresh coffee. Depending on how you are about your coffee, some of you know I'm really partial to mine. It's one of those things. If you want it, you can. Some people do the instant packets, some people don't. I carry a pour over. I like a good hot cup of coffee in the canyon. It's just kind of one of my little things. Lighting. It's a Lucy light. You can see them at REI, things like that. They inflate open. You can turn them on. They're solar powered. They're wonderful. You'll need some light around the camp. You will need that. So these little lanterns are quite great. Pretty wonderful to have. So headlamp. I carry a Black Diamond Spot. It's with fresh batteries. It'll last the whole trip. You'll use it at night. You'll use it to go to the bathroom, things like that. A set of batteries for what we're going to be in the canyon should last the entire time. Unless you really use a lot of light, then I bring some spare batteries. But headlamp is a must-have. For those of you with GoPros, other electronics, things like that, players, speakers, they make these little power packs. Some charge in the sunlight, some are just power cells. I bring one large power cell, and that's that. And I also bring this. It's a foldable solar panel that charges my one power cell. Has a little cable here. It's from Anchor. It's on Amazon. Fairly cheap little 3-cell. Between that and the one power cell, I have zero issues as far as lighting, recharging GoPros, cameras, anything like that. Utility line, that is something I carry. Clotheslines. It is dirty, wet. There's going to be towels. There'll be socks to wash and dry. I mean, it all depends. If you're going to pack in and much stuff that you can change every time you turn around, by all means. I like to wash my stuff and hang it up and carry less. A speaker. This is a little UE roll waterproof speaker. Music down there, we all listen to it, we all like it, so I'll be carrying a little speaker. Some of you may carry yours as well while you're hiking to listen to music. Fuel cells. The jet boil and the stoves don't work with this. You'd be surprised how many people bring half-used ones, or they don't check the weight on them, things like that, and they show up with empty fuel cells down there. So make sure you have enough to do the entire trip. One good-sized fuel cell should be more than adequate. Like I said, if you happen to run out, I guarantee other people will have them, and it'll be okay. A travel spork. You'd be surprised how bad you miss this little guy when you don't have one. Ask Matt. He spent 5 days on the Green River in Utah where he thought he had lost his, and it made for awkward meal plans. This is one by K-Bar you can get on Amazon. It comes with a little knife on the inside. Some people have Sea Summits and things like that. I have a little kitchen sink tote for hand washing dishes, things like that. It's just one of those little things I've learned to use. You don't have to have it. I told you I'm hammock camping, therefore slap straps and a hammock. That's what I'll be carrying. These are called Lumi Noodles. They plug into a battery pack. They're light strip. They're wonderful to have in group settings, so I usually carry one. Matt usually carries one. That way we can hang them up around camp when we have like family dinner time, stuff like that. Coffee cup or mug. GSI makes these little bitty guys. They weigh nothing, but you're gonna need a cup or a mug. There's gonna be beverages and things like that. Speaking of beverages, per the rules, no alcohol is allowed in the canyon. I'll let you be the judge on what's gonna happen, what goes on, and things like that. But that's what the rules say, just so you know. I put it out there. Nalgene bottle. Some people swear by them, some people have a lucky one, they never travel with that. Between this, couple of smart water bottles, I'm usually pretty good. Again, we're going for 4 days, not 4 months. So it doesn't have to be, like I said, all fancy, straight out of REI. Again, back to the sunblock and stuff like that. I burn, so I have a buff, and I carry one of these ridiculous hats that are awesome, awesome, awesome when hiking in the sunshine, that some people really, really shouldn't go without. All right, let's talk packs real quick. Yeah, I know it looks like a large pack, but this is the Ather 70 AG from Osprey. A lot of people last year carried the 65 Atmos, and it was perfect. It's what I actually used to use, and I love it. The only reason I upgraded this is I learned my lesson a long time ago. I like to have the space and maybe cinch everything down. Some people, when they're just starting out, if they buy an 80-liter pack, they fit 90 liters in it, and they carry everything that they don't need. I generally only use about 50 liters worth of this, but I just like having the extra space if needed. And my day pack is built in to the lid of this pack. That is one of the features that I really enjoyed, is because now this pack turns into a perfectly good use day pack. That being said, unless you want to carry your big pack everywhere you go, bring a day pack. You're going to need to pack snacks, lunches, water, things like that as you explore the rest of the canyon. Because just because we're down at the campsite doesn't mean it's over. It gets way better from there. Beaver Falls is about another 6 miles down the canyon. And about 11 miles in is the confluence of the Colorado River. Now last year we did up and down the canyon, and we went to Beaver Falls once, which was absolutely great. We left early in the morning. We hit sunrise right at the falls. It was awesome. I would like to see the confluence. Now they say there's no camping down there, things like that. We'll discuss that. But I do know leaving early one morning, going to Beaver Falls, and then maybe pushing the confluence, and then coming all the way back that day, it would be a really long day. But to see where Havasupai dumps into the Grand Canyon, unless you're whitewater rafting down or you come through Havasupai, that's the only way you see that spot. And they say 1% of the people that enter the canyon see Beaver Falls, and then 1% of the people that go to Beaver Falls actually go to the confluence. So some of us have pitched it around talking about going to that this year, who knows, but just food for thought. While you're in the canyon, this is by 32 degrees, it's my puffy jacket. Catch them on a sale, look at their site. If you go into a store, they're expensive. You catch them on their website, 50% off, it's like 30 bucks. These things are awesome. Great fluffy layers at night when the wind cools down, things like that. And then on top of that, I use a rain jacket from Patagonia. It may or may not rain, I doubt it, but what these things really do is stop the wind. So between the puffy jacket and this over the shell over the top, that means I've stopped any wind cutting through or anything like that. Super warm. Now I carry a beanie with me because at night, if my head does get cold, I happen to have no hair. I like to have that beanie available. Last year I used it when I slept 2 of the nights, and it was nice to have. So that's something, just food for thought like that. If you are going to hammock camp, think that you need a small pad to lay underneath your sleeping mat, just to kind of keep that air from flowing right through, that cold air. What you see me standing on is the old poncho liner from the military. I usually carry it everywhere because it does the job. They make all these little quilts at REI, things like that. Just be mindful. You don't need to go out and open a new credit card just to go on this trip. There's a lot of little things you can use that you can build on, as far as, like I said, you don't need an Nalgene bottle for 10 bucks. You can use a smart water bottle that you buy at the store for 2 bucks. As we go in, usually we like to, for the ones of us leaving from Dallas, we're going to road trip. We haven't exactly finalized all the plans. There's a few sites along the way, but keep in mind this is West Texas into New Mexico into Arizona. There's not much in between. So we try to see a few sites when we can. If not, we may push through and spend some time in Sedona. I just know that generally, right before the trailhead, our last town last year, the group of us, we got 2 hotel rooms just for part of the night. It was a little mom and pop stagecoach motel, but that allowed everybody to get a final shower, outfit their bags, double check their food, and double check things right before we go into the canyon, because once you leave on that road, no cell phone service, no stores like that, as far as you're kind of on your own. And so that allows us to get to that trailhead bright and early in the morning. Like I said, bring cash, things like that. Any questions you have, feel free to hit me up. I'll throw a few pictures in here so that you can see kind of what we went through. This is kind of just an overview of my gear, what I carry. It's all ad hoc. You can subtract, add, take away, but in the end, I strongly recommend you pack your pack. Make sure everything fits together. Make sure you put it on and realize exactly what weight you're carrying. Like I said, last year, I've done this a few times, different canyons, things like that, but last year I may have been about 55 pounds, 50 pounds. Even after I'd ate my food and everything else, it was heavy on the way out. And that elevation, it really kicked my butt. I was the last one out of the canyon. So just keep that in mind while we're on that subject. Whatever you bring in, remember, meals, wrappers, things like that, anything you bring that you don't condense down into multi-use Tupperwares, resealable things, anything like that, the trash has to be packed out too. There is no trash cans in that canyon. People think, oh, well, I get to the town, I'll find one of their cans. No, they keep everything locked up because as many tourists come in and out of there, they don't want to pack your trash out as well, seeing as how they have to either mule train it or helicopter it out. So whatever you unwrap and everything you take apart and everything that's left over has to be packed out. So if you use one Mountain House meal bag and eat out of it, and then all the other meals are put in little Ziploc baggies and you only rehydrate them in that one pouch, that will save you garbage. It's weird and it makes no sense, but it's seriously, we had quite a bit of trash by the end of the last trip between all the meals and things like that. Luckily, somebody had some spare room in their pack. We were able to wrap it in garbage bags. I usually throw 1 or 2 garbage bags in my pack just to have, for that reason, to wrap stuff up or keep it from dripping or oozing if there's anything like that. But luckily somebody let us put it in their pack and they had it on a mule that went out of the canyon, and so we threw it away once we got into Arizona. Keep in mind, once we come out of the canyon, for those of us in the carpool, we're heading straight back to Dallas. People got things going on. A lot of people have jobs they got to get back to, so we usually get out of the canyon, get on the road about 2 p.m., and there's a little Thai restaurant there just outside of where Havasupai Canyon is. We usually hit that, refill the batteries just a little bit, and then we head on back. So be prepared for that journey back, and be ready for some cramps. So any type of protein powders, things like that, your muscles are going to be fatigued. There were several of us last year that had a hard time even just stepping over curbs and things like that. And then you sit in a van for 5 or 6 hours. When you get out to get gas, it looks like a geriatric convention of cripples walking down the sidewalk. It's hilarious. But keep that in mind, that if you need icy hot, if you need ibuprofen, things like that for the after effects. Mind you, we'll have the van there. You can store stuff in the van. If you're not traveling with us, we'll still have the van there. You can throw stuff in because we'll meet you at the trailhead. Also, I will be bringing a small little cooler. We do like to have victory beers at the end because it's really awesome to cheers with your friends. And so we'll lock down some cold beer, seal it up in the cooler, wrap it, and tuck it away in the van for when we get out. We'll have waters, things like that. We learned a lot of lessons last year. So if you have any questions at all, reach out to like me or Matt or anybody that went on the trip last year. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. Hope it was informative. And cheers. Look forward to seeing y'all soon.